I agree.
at 18. I mean, I'm the age that, you know, when I was 18, everybody was getting recruited, drafted. I'm sorry, it wasn't recruiting,
Yeah.
drafting. Hi,
Me
Bill.
too.
And so, you know, that was scary and that was terrible. And I don't really like drafting because it's against your will. But at the same time, it sure made a difference in those people. And people I know who have been through military training have a whole different perspective. I had a friend whose son went to the Air Force Academy, and he said the first time he came home
What?
and he met with all of his high school buddies, he said the difference in him and all of his buddies was night and day. You know, one semester at the Air Force Academy had made him into a man. Everybody else was still playing shenanigans, you know, and he said it changes you when you realize that, hey, you're responsible and you are accountable and you must do what you're told to do.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe today we need everybody to do that for a couple of years.
Well, they sure do it in Israel, but everybody needs to. Women,
Oh, absolutely.
both.
Hi, Bill. So what have you got going on?
Everything.
He's just the master of the Zoom. He's his Zoom mentor. Yeah.
Make sure this is all set up for you.
My computer keeps freezing and everybody just goes,
I know it.
Yeah,
does.
it just froze a moment ago, but I think it was Bill that was saying yesterday to me that, you know, these kids all going back to school on the, I mean,
yeah.
I think the internet can only maybe take so much at Comcast, huh, Bill?
Yeah, well, you've got Mill Creek. It only has coaxial cables. It doesn't have fiber optics throughout. It was never put in. So what you've got is only a big enough pipeline. That's it. Fiber optics can hold like 1,000 times more, 10,000 times more.
Well, I think parts of Mill Creek went to fiber optics.
Yeah, we're talking about the old part of the country club area.
Oh, okay.
Dave's down in Springtree, which is down in the older area.
I'm down there with the old people.
Oh, I know.
Down there in the old area.
Old people.
Yeah. So it depends what you know. I mean, I've got huge pipeline up here. I can run it. I mean, there's nobody up where I live. I'm at fiber optics at 100 up, 100 down. So I just fly all over the place.
Wow.
Who's on iPad 2?
That sounds like Maria with some background noise.
Yes. We're trying not to have background noises. Trying to figure out how I can do that.
You can mute yourself.
That's a good idea.
No.
And then unmute when I ask you about the, well, you don't need to unmute now, or mute yourself now, but
Well, I'll
during
tell
the
you what, if I grab a cushion and go sit out on the other side, then I should be okay. We have a million things going on here. There's a house being built across the street.
Oh, really? Across the street or across your driveway?
Oh, no. I'm up at the place in Ferndale, Sandy Point. Let me see if I'm sure I can flip this around for you to see it. So let's see. Is my camera?
There's the ground.
Okay, so can you see that over there?
Yeah.
So that's under construction over there. And so they're
Sandy.
making noise. Plus, I have a guy steam cleaning my white carpet like I need a hole in my head, but in the house right now. So that's why I'm outside. And Steve, Steve, here's Steve having fun on his new boat that he's planning on putting in the water this afternoon.
Nice.
And let me see.
Wow, a lot of
So maybe if I go over here, I'll be away from all the noise. What do you think?
I'm getting dizzy.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I'm going to go sit down and be quiet.
That's a nice view. I like the flowers.
Thank you. I just cleaned up the garden for 3 hours this morning. Again. See, there you go. That's the buckets of trash.
Oh, good. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop my video so I can go get some cushions and sit down so you don't get nauseous. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
When we took a family vacation one time, we were in Colorado, and there was that great big gorgeous bridge, but we took the tram down. And I
Uh-huh.
told my dad that I wanted to take the movies, so I sat in front of the tram. And it was like, and then I would go look, I'd look down, and I'd look up, and I'd look down. Oh my God, he couldn't even watch it afterwards to me.
That's the thing. Yeah, you make everybody really happy with it. See, and I get motion sick, so I'd be the first one to throw up on you.
Oh, good.
Ooh, that wouldn't be good.
TMI, right? TMI.
Hi, Rick. Hi, Danny.
How y'all doing?
Hi.
Good.
Good.
So thank you very much. Before I'm going to start, just out of curiosity, have you ever been in Israel, one of you? Victoria and Ron and Dave. Okay, wow. One time, two times? Twice. And Ron and Dave once. Okay, so you maybe can share with us your experiences as well. So, so in the age of 18, I don't know if you know, but in the age of 18, it's mandatory for Israelis to go to the army. And the reason for that is because Israel surrounded unfriendly neighbors, I will call it that way, because all of them think that Israel shouldn't be a Jewish country, or they don't recognize Israel as a country, or they just don't think that we should exist as a Jewish country. And some of them don't think that we should exist at all. Doesn't matter if it's Jewish or not. So in the age of 18, I joined to the army. I wasn't carrying a gun. Most of the soldiers just sitting in front of the computer in an office with air conditioner, because it's mandatory as well in Israel. It's so hot in here. So I was sitting in an office fighting through the computer. And after my military service, it's very common that soldiers, when they're done with their service, they're going on a big trip. They're traveling somewhere in the world for about 6 months to a year. And why is that? Because we worked very hard for 3 years, while other people in the same age like us in other places in the world going to college or having their time of their lives, we went to the army. We spent about 2 weeks in the base and 1 day at home, and another 2 weeks in the base, another day at home. So we felt like it's something that we should do. So we go in and we're traveling, and every soldier picking an area or a place around the world to travel to. So a lot of people love to go to South America or India. And I decided to go to North America, which is not very common. So I decided to go to Canada and America and the US, and I traveled in Canada and the US for about 14 months. I've been in 27 states in the US and in all the states in Canada. And obviously that I met a lot of people, and most of them were non-Jewish. And when I talked to them about my nationality and my religion and my culture, most of them said, "Oh, are you from Israel? I'm so happy that you're alive because you came from a war zone." And I was like, "What? Israel is not a war zone. Yeah, we have a conflict, but it's not a war zone. It's a safe place." Or some people said, "Oh, you were a soldier, so you killed Palestinians just for fun. Is that right? And you're drinking their blood." Horrible things. I can continue more and more and more. And I was like, "Where are you getting all this information from?" And I'm like, "Oh, from the media." back then it was 2016. I was like, today I can write a post on Facebook saying that I had a coffee with, I don't know, with Kennedy, that Kennedy is alive. I will get a few likes, I will get a few comments, a few shares. People will start to believe me, and people will actually think that I grabbed a coffee with Kennedy. So we're living in a world of fake news, and this is a really challenge. A huge challenge for the people of Israel and the Jewish people across the world. And then I came back to Israel with all of my thoughts. I was like, okay, I educated some people. I talked to some people about Israel and the Jewish people. So now they know our story better. But there are a lot of people that I didn't speak to. So all of those people think that I'm, I don't know, that I'm living in a war zone, or I'm riding a camel, or that, oh, by the way, the most common one was like, how you can be a Jew if you are dark. All the Jews are white, or all the Jews have a big nose, and I don't have a big nose. So how does that make sense? A lot of stereotypes. So when I came back to Israel, I decided to do my first degree in international relationship, and also to understand a little bit of cultures. And then when I graduated, it was the year of 2018. And 2018 was a horrible year for the Jewish people around the world, and especially in America. And the reason for that, because as I mentioned before, we surrounded unfriendly neighbors that doesn't really support us, which means that we're facing a lot of hate, some terrorism here in Israel. We have a conflict. And more Jewish people got murdered in America because of their religion than here in Israel. And Jewish people in America are not surrounded other countries that want to murder them just because of their religion. And here in Israel, we are surrounded some countries that want to destroy us, to remove us from the map just because of our religion. So how does that make sense? There's more Jewish people got murdered in America just because of their Judaism, when they're living in such, beautiful country, the dreamland, democracy. How does that make sense? And I made a research, and I just understood that there is a lot of hate because there is a lot of misinformation, or there is no information. People don't know the story of the Jewish people and Israel. They know a lot of stereotypes. And as all of the minorities around the world, we are a minority as well, and we're facing discrimination. But it's got into a level, into a line that I just almost cried, and I was like, I must do something about it. And then I joined Stand With Us. And since I joined Stand With Us, I talked to more than 10,000 people in America. I educated them about Israel, about the Jewish people. I tell them the story. I'm not involved in politics. I'm not saying what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes I'm saying, hey, Israel did that. You will judge if it's right or wrong. I'm not making a decision. Stand With Us is a non-political organization. And that's what I like, by the way, about this organization. That's why I ready to work for them and not for other organizations. Because they're telling the facts, they're telling the truth, and then letting the audience, the participants, to judge if it was okay or not okay. And that's why I'm talking to you today. That's why I showed you this video, to educate you more about anti-Semitism. By the way, I'm pretty sure that you all know what anti-Semitism is, but if you don't, so anti-Semitism is to hate Jewish people, to be against Jewish people. So the anti-Semitism in the US and in North America in general is rising, increasingly, every single day. And when I'm talking to students, most of the time I'm talking to students and I'm telling them and I'm sharing them my family story and my religion story, everything, they're in shock. They tell me, Aviv, we thought this and that, and you came to us and you told us other facts. We verified your facts, because every time I'm talking to students, I'm telling them, pull out your smartphones. I won't get offended. Pull out your smartphones and check everything I'm saying. Verify everything I'm saying. And then doing that. And while they're pulling out their phones, they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then I'm seeing their faces like, oh, he's right. The Jewish people felt like second class and they faced discrimination, anti-Semitism all over the world after they expelled from their only Jewish territory. And after they came back there, they got an offer to establish a new Jewish state. And there are a lot of propaganda right now against them, saying that they doing another Holocaust for other people, or they're murdering other people just for fun, which is obviously not true. We have a conflict here in Israel because we got an offer from the United Nations to establish 2 countries for 2 states, a Jewish country and an Arab country. We said yes to the offer. The Arab side said no to the offer. We established, we declared independence, mostly because most of the Jewish people in the world were here in Israel. They moved mostly because of the Holocaust, because we understood what are the circumstances of Jewish people living in small groups all around the world where we're not united. We established Israel according to the United Nations rules. And there are some countries until today that disagree with the plan of the United Nations, and they just want to remove Israel from the map. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to talk with you about here, to raise the awareness, and also by talking to you, by educating you about our story, I'm also preventing anti-Semitism. That's at least what I think. So now I'm going to open this discussion for you. I'm going to, like, the stage is yours right now. You can ask me whatever you want, really whatever you want. We have only 20 minutes, so usually I'm giving an hour and a half presentation, another 30 minutes for Q&A. So obviously we don't have time for it. So I didn't mention a lot of things, but if you want to ask me things about, if you want to ask me something about something you didn't mention, feel free to do so, and also to educate yourself from your own questions. Yes, Maria.
I'm surprised that Jeff Owen isn't on this Rotary meeting with us, because his daughter spent some time there. I believe it was almost a year. And my first husband was David Silverman, so I'm more educated than most. As far as I can tell, ever, all you want is a place to call home. Is that not right? 73
Absolutely.
years worth?
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to play.
I have to say.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, absolutely. The Jewish people, after 2,000 years in the diaspora, after we've been expelled from our home or from our territory twice, we understood that if we're still going to live in small Jewish communities all across the world, we're still going to face discrimination. We're still going to feel like second class. But most of all, if there is some racist, powerful, violent leader that wants to make a final solution, that's the words of Hitler, that want to kill us all just because of our religion, he can do so. And why is that? Because we live in small communities and we are not united. Here in Israel, we're united. There is a Jewish army, and we can prevent another Holocaust. Because believe it or not, there are many other psychopaths in this world like Hitler until today, but they are not powerful. And even if they will be powerful, which I know they won't, but if they will, we can defend ourselves. We can fight back. Something that we couldn't do back then when we lived in small groups all across the world. So as Maria said, we just want a place to call it home, and we want to come back to our territory, a place where we were expelled from 1900 years ago. Yes, Ron? Please unmute yourself.
I would just like to know what your understanding is of why the Arabs hate Israel so much.
A lot of propaganda from the media, a lot of propaganda from the Arab countries around us. A lot of times when they're not showing the full picture. I can just give you an example, probably it's the most common example. The Al Jazeera and other Arab channels, and also some pages on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms, showing pictures of the civil war in Syria, saying that this is an IDF soldier doing something to a Palestinian kid. But it's someone from Syria, a soldier, attacking a civilian. this is one example out of thousands. And because of this propaganda, a lot of people hating Israel, or they don't understand our side. And about a year ago, I tried to take myself for 1 week to understand, to be in their shoes, to be in the Israeli haters' shoes. And I just Googled things about Israel. I checked anti-Israel pages online. And I was like, listen, if I was born in America and I will read all the stuff that I read, I will be an anti-Israel just because the things that we're exposed to. I will be for 100% anti-Israel, and I will be an activist, and I will protest against the state of Israel, and I will hate Jewish people just because the things I read online. So I can understand where they're coming from. But just because they change their minds by reading all those lies online, I can come and educate them again and to tell them the truth. Because right now, it's not something they're reading online. They're meeting an Israeli, they're meeting a Jewish person, they're meeting someone who served in the IDF, someone from the Middle East, which is a totally different thing. Yes, David. David?
David, unmute yourself.
I didn't hear you call my name. So follow on Ron's question. As I recall, we didn't even have internet until 1994. The hatred of Jews by Arabs, I think, has been going on a little longer than that. So, you know, where does it all come from? Is it all about the land? And then the second question I have is, what would you know, how can we support you?
So I would like to start from the end. How you can support me, just spread the word. That's all I can say. Just spread the word. You can donate to stand with us, but this is another thing. But just spread the word about the Jewish people, about Israel, that we are all the same. We're all human beings. That's it. No more than that. And also, when you see something online, comment on it. Say, hey, I know Israelis. Hey, I know Jewish people. They're not like this. They're not as you're describing. And for your first question, before the internet, we had, of course, we had a conflict with the Arabs in this territory before 1994. And the reason for that is because this land called Palestine by the Romans, it was named Palestine by the Romans. And there were about 1 million Arab people living in Palestine under the Romans, and then under the Ottomans, and then under the British. And right after all the empires collapsed all across the world after World War I, a lot of Jewish people came back to Palestine, to their grandparents' homeland. Why? It was owned by the British, not by the Arabs. They came back to empty lands, to the desert, and they built cities like Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv was the first city that has been built after we got expelled, after World War I. And we'll build it for nothing. It was just a desert. And after more and more Jewish people started to come here, the Arabs, who were the majority here in Palestine, again, the territory wasn't them, it was owned by the British. They start to be scared that they're going to be a minority. And then the British said that they're supporting all the Jewish people from around the world to move to Palestine. And the British said that they're going to divide the territory to 2 countries for 2 nations. And then they asked the United Nations for help. The United Nations came with a plan, as I mentioned before, 2 countries for 2 nations, 55% of the territory to the Jewish people, 45% to the Arabs. The Jewish people said yes, and they established the state of Israel. The Arabs refused to the offer, and they didn't establish a new Arab state. And since that day until today, there is a hate between the Arabs and the Jewish people. I won't say the majority, it's getting better. Even that I'm talking like this and I'm talking with you about the conflict, it's better than it was in 1948 when we established the state of Israel. But since that day, when we got the offer And we said yes, and they said no. And with that, we still declared independence. Since that day, we have a conflict with them until today. And because we are surrounded our countries, they're obviously supporting the Arab people that live in here. And that's why we have the conflict. That's why there is a hate against Israel. But hate against the Jewish people in general, it was always like that, since ever. And why is that? We're a minority, and every minority in this world facing discrimination, not only the Jewish people. But it's something that we can change. That's what I believe. Jeff? Jeff, please unmute yourself.
Jeff, you need to unmute.
There we go.
yourself.
Yeah, my mouse had disappeared. I couldn't get it over. I'm wondering whether or not, as you get older, your prejudices are kind of built in, and you have to unlearn them. I'm wondering whether or not there's any interaction, you see any hope between you and your counterparts that are Palestinians in your age group, seeing things differently and maybe making the change?
It's a really, really good question. And my answer for you is yes. In 1948, by Michael, in 1948, when we established the state of Israel, 100% of the Arabs wanted the whole country. They said there is no place for the Jewish people here. Today, it's about 60% of the Arabs saying that they want the entire state, and 40% of them saying that they want two countries for two nations because they believe that we also have connection to this land. And when we came here, we built our Jewish cities in the desert. We even took their territory. So they understand also our reasons. So it's got better. Even that we still have a conflict today, it's still better than 1948. While more people thinking that the conflict is getting worse, again, because what the media is showing us. Back then in 1948, we didn't have the same media that we have today. Back then, you could read about Israel once a day in a newspaper. Today, you can hear about Israel maybe 1,000 times on TV on one day. So it's different, but it's getting better. According to your question, maybe it can come from people from my age. What I can tell you is that because of the word of today, that everyone connected to social media, I can get in right now to Facebook and to find hundreds of Facebook groups of Israelis and Palestinians coming together. One very famous group is Israelis and Palestinians coming together to beat COVID. And why is that? Because we're all human beings. I can get infected and Palestinian can get infected. We're all human beings. It doesn't care. The virus doesn't care what is our religion. So yes, maybe the peace can come from the people and not from the politicians. And more than that, again, because of social media, today I can get into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and to speak with a Palestinian in a second. Back then, I got all my information, all my sources from the media. And they basically told me what to believe to. Today, I don't need the media for it. I can speak with Palestinians. I can understand their reality, their needs, their challenges by talking directly with them. It's something I couldn't do 10 years ago. And now I can do it. So maybe the peace will come from the people. David, I don't know if we have more time. I'm available. So
Yeah, Dave Gunter, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I was in Israel right after college. Before I kind of did anything, I traveled around the world with an archaeologist, and part of that time we were in Israel. We were in a place called Tel Halif, which is south of Israel. It's kind of south of Israel and kind of even with the top of the Gaza Strip area. And it's an archaeological site. In biblical times, it was called Ramon, which means pomegranate. And it was a trade center in those days. So I worked on a dig there. And, So when I was there, though, did a lot of the same tourist stuff where we visit various sites and stuff. And, I've literally, over my lifetime, I've had people argue with me that the Jewish people never had that area as a homeland, and I've seen it for myself. A lot of the places identified in the Bible, you can just go find. They're there, and it's so hard for me to understand why some people can just so adamantly deny that the Jewish people, that was ancient Israel. That was a place, and it's just hard, it's crazy to me that people can absolutely deny it when so many people in the world have been there and seen it. It's just, so this is really not a question, I guess. It's just a lack of understanding. I mean, I just don't understand that part.
It's a good point, and it's quite ridiculous that people don't think that we have any connection to this territory, even that you can find so much archaeology over here. Right now, we're building an underground train system. We started about 4 years ago. We founded entire cities, Jewish cities, from 3,000 years ago, underground, just because we're building this train and all of that. But Dave, you talking with me about things that happened 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Today, Israel has challenged that there are a lot of people that denying the Holocaust. Something that happened 80 years ago, not 2,000 years ago. I'm talking about 80 years ago. You can go to Auschwitz and to death camps all across Europe, and still people saying that it's a lie, that the Holocaust was a lie, that the Holocaust is a propaganda because the Jewish people want their own state.
My dad was a World War II veteran and saw the some of the concentration camps when he was in Berlin, when Berlin fell. And he had people in his lifetimes tell him he was lying because he said that he saw that.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges we're facing until today. So yeah, a lot of people don't think that we have any connection to this land. Stories from 2,000, 3,000 years ago, but there are also people that we need to convince that we went for the Holocaust, which is quite ridiculous to do. But
Victoria, you have a question?
Yeah.
Maybe one more question after Victoria, and then we'll have to let our friend Aviv leave. Yes,
Victoria, please unmute yourself. Technology, that's fine. We're all in the same boat.
Okay, there we go. I just want to say it's so wonderful to meet you. I was in Jordan, and they had Jerusalem when I was there, and I was shown around by an Arab, and of course got the whole Arab pitch. And then years later, I got to go back to Jerusalem when it was owned by Israel. What a difference in those two times. I cannot believe the smells, or the lovely smells when I went back and it was Israel's, of bread and people happy, and of course there's this huge conflict. And then I also had the opportunity of going to Auschwitz, and I cannot believe anybody would deny that existed. I just cannot, and I so support Israel and what you're doing, and I thank you for coming to our club and talking to us, because it's a very important thing. Thank you.
I have one question.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I appreciate that, and I appreciate people like you. Thank you.
Aviv, I have one question. When you were here, since you went to many states, did you have an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C.?
Yes, I was in Washington, D.C. 6 times, and I was there last March, like this March. So
And did you have the opportunity to go to the Holocaust Museum?
Yes, and I can tell is the best Holocaust museum in the world after the one here in Israel.
It is something that every American should see. It is the saddest story in a museum. That's all I can say. It's just to see it makes you cry. It's so terrible what was done. And so I think every American needs to see that. So it just lets them know this took place, must never happen again. That's just my opinion. Any other questions?
I'm sorry,
Am I losing you? Looks like we just lost him.
yeah, I had no connection for about 2 minutes.
Okay.
So I just heard you say it must go to the
I just said that everybody in this group here and any American should go to that museum to see the story.
I want to add one thing
That's
about
the story
that.
of all time.
In the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., there is a section of Holocaust survivors volunteers. So you can talk with a Holocaust survivor after you finish with touring in the museum. And I talked with the Holocaust survivor over there, and he said we have basically a sheet that we're filling up every week, the times, the dates and the times that we can sit and talk with people. And every year they're losing more and more people just because of age.
Of course.
Just because of age. They're losing more and more people. And back then, you had every single hour a Holocaust survivor to talk to. Today, there are only an hour or two every single day. And in 10 years, there will be none. So if you have an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., or your kids or your grandchildren, tell them to go there and to talk with a Holocaust survivor, because in 10 years, we won't have them in this world.
That's right.
Aviv, I want to thank you very much for taking time to be a part of our meeting. It was very, very nice of you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Be safe. I really hope to see you face to face when I'll be back in Seattle. And good night from Tel Aviv.
Thank you. So I guess we should move on to announcements. One of the things I wanted to just touch base with everybody on is that, we get that newsletter, the 50/30 newsletter. And in that's some pretty good information. That's how I found out about there's a new member orientation that's on the 18th of this month. It was listed in there. The trivia night that's on the 20th is listed in there. There's a lot of information, and I just call upon y'all to take the time to read through it. It doesn't take a great deal of time, but it sure kind of gets you hip to what's taking place. So I just wanted to bring that up to everybody. Also, we'll start. In fact, Danielle reminded me that I should do this. So we're gonna each meeting we're gonna have a update, listed update for discussion on how our fundraising's going. I did take a peek today, and I saw just before I went on that we collected $6,225. And Danielle may want to talk about the upcoming event on the 29th, but it's starting to happen. I just think we need to start getting the information out to our friends in a bigger way. And I wish we'd had more people on the call today that we could have reached out to them too that are missing this every week. And they need to know the importance of the fundraising. And when they miss the meetings every week, I think they miss the importance of this fundraising. So if they're not going to be here, we are here. Let's do the best we can to get the message out and try to get some funds. Can I turn it over to you for a second, Danielle, about the upcoming event? Can't hear you.
Can you hear
Now
me?
we can. Now we can.
Sorry, I switched out my my camera today. So as you will all recall, I sent out an email to everyone about 2 weeks ago. I think it's really important that we include some of that information in Dave's weekly emails moving forward, so that all of those people that are unable to come to these weekly Zoom meetings or just don't have the ability to do it will know to reach out to their friends and family and try to garner some support for our club. We are at 6225 on the website so far on the direct giving campaign. We also have some income coming in via checks directly to Sid. So that is an option in the letter that I sent out to everybody. So please share. We also have our mystery wine box sale that will be on the 29th. We created a Facebook event page to invite people to. We're getting some good reactions and follows on that particular event. So at 9 a.m. that morning, the sales will go live on our fundraising site, and it's capped at 25 because that's how much wine we have. So that'll bring in a little over an additional $3,000. So so far we have 17 people attending and 5 more interested. So please invite your friends and family to that event. And then obviously you're all welcome to purchase boxes of wine as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate it. I want to kind of turn it over if I could just for a minute, Victoria, and I will come back. If you have a quick question, go ahead, and then I'm going to go to Tom Betts. Yes, Victoria.
So Danny, question, if we're out of town on the 29th, it's only on that day, and I'll try to get to a computer, but that's all I need to do, right?
Correct. You only have to purchase on that day, and then we'll coordinate delivery of wine boxes. And I've just indicated that I would prefer that people purchasing are in King, Snohomish, or Skagit counties, since we'll be doing the deliveries ourselves to verify that they're 21.
And for help with the deliveries, we can certainly call on people who've been helping with the food drive too, because we can all drive. So anyway, just want you to know.
Awesome. Well, I mean, Bill McElroy already offered to do all of the deliveries for me, so.
What?
Wow. Wow.
Somehow
I mean, he volunteers me for things, so I figure I might as well volunteer him.
Well, thanks, Bill. That's really nice of you. But if you need help, I'll help you.
Is it the truth?
And will your car start? Who was next? Somebody else was raising their hand. I'm sorry. I was going to move it to Tom Betts. I'm sorry. Tom, would you like to give the update, please?
Thanks, President Dave. I've been working with President Dave and a couple other people in the group to kind of make a different look of how we communicate with the members. And we're going to try, and I'm assuming many of you got the bulletin that was sent out on Saturday. We're going to try and do that every week. And I need your help. You know, if you've got a date for something that's important, email me, let me know, we'll put it in the bulletin. If you've got photos, like Mary Kay, whenever you have a food drive, if you got images of it, send it to me, I'll get it into the bulletin. We're going to try and make the website more of a static for the outside world to look at. And we will have our weekly bulletins so that we're kept up to date on all the things that have gone on. Like today's speaker, there'll be a synopsis of what happened today with the meeting. And we'll show next week's speaker, and we'll have dates in the future. So I'm open to anything. If you've got something you want to see in the bulletin, email me. We'll get it in there somehow. So I'm really excited. I'm going to appreciate all the help that guys like Bill McElroy and Jeff Brennan and President Dave have given me, and Dave Bondo, to get this thing up and going. I hope it's successful. And if there's any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, Danielle.
I just also wanted to remind everyone, well, advise everyone, our private Facebook group has now been archived, and I put a link in that group to invite everybody to follow our public facing page. So we're no longer going to keep the private group active anymore. So you'll get all of your announcements on Facebook through the public group, which is public facing.
Thank you, Danielle. So should we move on to Happy Bucks if there's no further? Oh, yes, Jeff's got a question. Mike McGinnis has a question, so we'll keep at the questions.
Well, mine's not much of a question. It's more of a suggestion.
Okay.
That, you know, I know some of you see each other on the Friday food pickups and deliveries. For those of us that are still working full time, that's not much of an option for us. But I think, you know, given the regular number of folks that have been showing up for our weekly lunch meetings being, you know, half our club, I think it's probably time for us to do a local project that isn't a lot of effort, that has the opportunity to get members face to face again. And I would like to suggest that we pick a Saturday morning. It sounds like in September now. I was thinking the 29th, but I don't want to interfere with the wine auction. But I think, you know, 9/12, 9/19, something like that. Saturday morning, 9 to 11, meet in Mill Creek. It'll be a simple project. You know, you'll need some gloves, some trash bags, and just pick up the trash. We'll wear Rotary t-shirts, walk downtown center, picking up trash, cleaning it up, come back through the parking lots, 2 hours max. And then who knows, maybe sit outside at a Boston's and have a beer and a piece of pizza together. There's enough room there to spread out, and we might be able to catch some of the folks that haven't been getting on this video meeting to actually come out on a Saturday morning and see them face to face. And I don't think it would take a lot of preparation. You know, I mean, we can all bring our own gloves. We can all bring in a bag. You can bring a scraper if you want to scrape gum off pavement. But, you know, I'm thinking we just make it easy. We just pick up the trash that's blowing around. And there might not be a lot of it. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there's tons of it if you walk down through Mill Creek. And I was thinking start north of LA Fitness and walk all the way down to the light on Mill Creek Boulevard, right past City Hall. There's usually a lot of trash down there in that area because I guess that's the favorite place to throw stuff out. But just a thought. So.
Well, I think that's a great thought because maybe we can grab some other folks that we've missed, you know, the last several weeks. Mary Kay, do you think you could put something together with your team on community service and assist Jeff and his suggestion? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And my only thought as you started talking about that was start at both ends and work toward the middle and then have lunch. But yes, I'll get the email out to the community service committee, and we'll see if we can.
You've already improved the idea.
Well, I was thinking, let's not all work at the same place, you know. So, but yeah, we'll try and put that together and look for a date in September then. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff, very, very much. Mike McGinnis, he had a suggestion or a comment or a question.
Very good. Yes, I would, as a speaking coordinator, I would appreciate everybody continuing to send really quality, good speakers like we've had. So just wanted to plug that for me. So if you have good people that you know, or just send them our way because I think we've had a pretty good speaking tour so far.
Yeah, you've done a great job, Mike.
Thank you.
Great job. Anything else? Well, I guess it's time for Happy Bucks. I got $5. No, I'm going in 10. My wife just left for Detroit with her mother, who's been here at the house for 7 weeks. It's been a great time having her. She kind of struggles with dementia, so you got to watch her like a hawk. But I'm glad that she had an opportunity to stay with her daughter out here this long, and now they're heading to Detroit, and Sherry heads back on Sunday. So that's just for my mother-in-law, my wife, They had a lot of good time together. Probably the last time they'll ever spend that many weeks together. And where I didn't kill myself. Next. Yes, Rick.
Yeah, I got $5 today. Want to compliment Tom Betts on the bulletin. He did a really great job on the first one there. And also Mike McGinnis on the quality of speakers that we've had so far. Great job, both of you.
Yes, Dave Gunter.
You know, this is part happy bucks, part just something everybody should be aware of. This has been a rough couple of weeks. I literally know more people than I can count on both hands that are in the hospital with COVID or with not. I have 3 of my high school classmates from my graduating class that were or have been in the hospital in the last week. And I just found out yesterday, one of my best friends both in California, both her parents are in the hospital for COVID. And they're in their 70s, but they were healthy. Her dad's organs are failing. So my friend Roger, who I went to school with, I communicated with him and one other person literally most of the time they were in the hospital. And he was on the verge of being put on a ventilator. And he volunteered to be a test subject for remdesivir. And it pretty much saved his life. So, but he sent me emails. He said, you know, people need to know this is not a hoax. You know, a lot of people hear there's fake news on the news and whatever. But when they talk about hospitals running out of beds and nurses overwhelmed and all that, he said that's absolutely true. And he said, I saw it for myself firsthand. They had more COVID patients. He lives in Louisiana in the hospital where I was than they had beds. They were sending people everywhere, like trying to get them care. And he said, for those who think this is a cold or just the flu, he said, here's what it feels like. He said, you know, I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. He said, it feels like you're slowly drowning in slow motion for 3 weeks. And if you're lucky enough to live through it and remember it, he said, you have intense abdominal pain, intense pain all over your body. He said, you have a headache that not even pain medicine can get rid of. He said, it's horrific. So he really wants people to know that this is a real thing and it's awful. It's an awful disease. And my happy bucks is he went home yesterday.
Right.
But this is a real thing, people. We need to, we need to take it seriously. And I really don't feel that we are. So that's my $5.
Next. Yes, Darby.
I have $5, one for the speaker, and let's go with 2 for my son going to Greenbelt, and I'm really proud of him, and 2 more because he's going to coding camp next week, so he's going to be able to build his own games. Super cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yes, Mary Kay.
I'll throw in 5 today, 1 for our speaker and 1 for Dave's friends. And thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm glad that some of them are doing better. And we'll keep praying for everybody to get through that. But I think people are taking it seriously. I do believe there's a lot of people who aren't. But I think most of the people I know are taking it pretty seriously and are being safe. So I'm sorry to hear about so many of your friends at one time, though. That's got to be overwhelming. So good luck to all of them and to you.
Thanks.
Well, I guess, yes, Mike McGinnis, and then Victoria next.
Okay, well, happy bucks for Dave Gunter. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's always important to remember how important this COVID stuff is. And I'll throw in $5. We are totally ready for heading down. I think I mentioned this last week. We're heading down to Tahoe with how many grandkids do we have? 9 grandkids. and my 3 kids and their spouses. And it's been, they say you spend more time planning a vacation than you plan your retirement. Well, I think that's true. So $5.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Victoria?
Okay, well, I have $5. Dave, your message was heartfelt, and I really appreciate you saying it like you did, because even though we are taking it serious, just hearing how awful the pain is and all of that is pretty incredible. I also thought our speaker was wonderful. We've had great speakers, Mike. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I think that's a huge job. And Jeff, that was a very good suggestion, and I can see us out there with our blue shirts on, our gloves, and picking up trash. I mean, never wanted to be a trash person, but I guess I could do that. So anyway, and love this club, and just remember to try to get your friends to donate. Just pretty please. Thank you.
Well, I think it's time now for the 4-way test. Bill, would you bring that up, please? Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial
to all
concerned? We'll adjourn the meeting, and thank you so much for being on today. Take care. Have a great day. Bill, you're doing a good job.
We'll have fun. I kept it more traditional this time.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye-bye.